Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I've gone camping dozens of times in my life, but after what happened last year, I'll never go alone again. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Just a solo weekend out in the wilderness, a little escape from the world. I picked a spot deep in the forest, far from the main trails, just the way I liked it. The first day was perfect. Fishing by the lake, cooking over the fire, stretching out in the quiet. I hadn't seen another person all day. That's what I wanted. That night, as I sat by the fire, I heard something odd whistling. It wasn't the wind through the trees. It wasn't a bird. It was human. A slow, deliberate tune, rising and falling in the darkness. I turned my head toward the sound, straining my ears. It was distant, somewhere past the tree line, but definitely there. I called out. The whistling stopped. Silence swallowed the woods. The fire crackled, and my own breath sounded too loud in my ears. Probably another camper, I told myself. Someone out for a nighttime walk, maybe. No big deal. Still, something about it sat wrong with me. I brushed it off and crawled into my tent, zipping it tight. I lay there for a long time listening. The forest was still. No crickets. No rustling leaves. Just an unnatural silence pressing in on all sides. Eventually, exhaustion won. I drifted off. Then, at around 2 a.m., I woke up. I didn't know why at first. Just that feeling, like something had pulled me from sleep. My skin prickled with unease. Then I heard it again. The same slow, eerie whistle. But this time it was closer, right outside my tent. I froze, my body tensed, every nerve screaming at me to stay silent. Who the hell was out here? The whistling stopped, and then, beneath the thin nylon of my tent, I heard something dragging through the dirt. A long, scraping noise. It circled me once, twice, slow and deliberate. I clenched my fists, my breath shallow. My knife was next to my sleeping bag. I gripped it, holding it tight. I wanted to believe it was an animal, but deep down I knew better. Then, in the dead silence, a voice whispered through the tent fabric. "You picked the wrong spot." My heart stopped. The voice was right next to my ear, inches away. I bolted upright, fumbling for my flashlight, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. I unzipped the tent in a frenzy, exploding out into the night, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other. Nothing. The trees swayed gently in the wind. My fire had burned down to embers. The night was still and empty, but as I swept the light around, my beam caught something. Footprints. Bare, human footprints leading away from my tent. I turned slowly, my skin crawling, my gut screaming at me to get out of there. That's when I saw it. At the edge of my campsite, scratched into the dirt with jagged, uneven letters, were the words, "See you next time." A chill ran through me, so deep it felt like my bones had turned to ice. I didn't pack. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys, my backpack, and I ran. I drove through the night, my heart hammering, eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds. When I got home, I locked every door, every window. I barely slept for a week. I don't know who or what I heard that night, But one thing's for damn sure. There won't be a next time. Story 2. It started as the kind of trip we'd done a dozen times before. For guys, a long weekend, and the quiet emptiness of the Appalachian Mountains. No cell service, no work calls, just beer, bad jokes, and the occasional ghost story by the fire. We weren't the superstitious type. If we had been, we never would have camped near Devil's Hollow. We got there Friday afternoon, found a clearing just big enough for 2 tents, and set up. The air was crisp, the smell of pine thick, and by nightfall, we were laughing around a crackling fire. The first night was perfect, but the second night, that's when we saw him. Mike was mid-sentence, telling some dumb story about his ex, when he stopped. Just stopped. His mouth hung open, like he had forgotten what he was saying. His eyes locked on something past the fire, just beyond the tree lean. Mike, I nudged his arm. He didn't blink. Then, in a voice that barely sounded like his, he muttered, "There's someone in the tree." The way he said it, flat and cold, sent a shiver down my spine. We all turned, and there he was, about 15 feet up in an old pine, crouched on a thick, gnarled branch was a man, just sitting there watching us. He wasn't moving. He wasn't even blinking. I felt my stomach twist. He looked normal, at least at first, just a man in dark clothes. But the longer I stared, the more wrong he seemed. His limbs were too long, like someone had stretched him out. His face was pale, almost sickly, and his eyes, God, his eyes were black, bottomless pits that didn't reflect the firelight. No one spoke. No one moved. James, the idiot, broke the silence. "Hey, you okay up there?" The man didn't answer, didn't flinch. Then, without warning, he grinned. It wasn't a normal grin. It was too wide, too unnatural, stretching like his skin was too tight over his skull. And then he waved, slowly, almost playfully. Mike cursed under his breath. That's when James grabbed the flashlight and flicked it on. The second the beam hit him, he was gone. Not like he climbed down, not like he jumped. Gone. The branch was empty. The whole tree was empty. No rustling, no breaking branches, no sound at all. Just an empty space where a man had been a second before. For a long time, none of us said anything. Then I muttered, "Did we all just see that?" Nobody answered. We barely slept. Every twig snapped. Every rustle of the wind made our hearts pound. But the night passed, and by morning it almost felt stupid. Almost. We packed up without saying much. None of us wanted to be the one to suggest leaving early, but no one argued when James said, "Let's just get the hell out of here." On the way back, we stopped at the ranger station just to ask, just to see if anyone else had ever seen whatever the hell we saw. The ranger was an old guy, white beard, sun-wrinkled skin. He listened without interrupting, but as we spoke, his expression changed. When we finished, he let out a slow breath. "You boys were camped near Devil's Hollow, weren't you?" We nodded. He sighed. "People see him there sometimes. No one knows who he is, but if you see him, it means you weren't supposed to be there." I waited for him to laugh, tell us it was some local legend, but he didn't. He just looked at us, serious as death, and said, "You're lucky. Some people who see him don't come back." That was the last time I went camping. Story 3. Camping is supposed to be peaceful, quiet, a place where you can escape the chaos of the world, Sit under the stars and let the night swallow you whole. That's what I thought when Sarah and I decided to take a weekend trip to a national park. One of those untouched places where the trees grow thick and the nearest town is a 2-hour drive. It was perfect. A dream getaway. It turned into a nightmare. We arrived early in the afternoon, the sun painting long golden streaks through the trees. The spot we found was ideal, far off the main trail, nestled between two massive oaks. No other campers in sight, just us, the trees, and a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. We set up our tent, built a fire, cooked some food. It was perfect until the sun went down. Then the silence came. I didn't notice it at first. You never do, not really. The world just sort of hushes itself. And at first it feels peaceful. But after a while, you start to realize silence like that isn't natural. There should have been crickets, an owl, something. But there was nothing. I remember glancing at Sarah. She was staring at the fire, arms wrapped around her knees, the flickering light making her face look strange, almost hollow. "Do you hear that?" she asked. I listened. "I don't hear anything." "Exactly." We laughed it off. Probably just our imaginations. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The first sound came around midnight. A single footstep. Not the snap of a twig, not the rustle of leaves. A footstep. Slow, deliberate, close. Sarah stiffened beside me. We were still awake, lying in the tent, talking in hushed voices. But now, we were dead silent. Another step, then another. Circling. My mind raced. A bear? A coyote? But no, this was different. It sounded human. Sarah gripped my wrist. "What is that?" she whispered. I swallowed, trying to steady my breathing. "I don't know." Then we heard it. A breath. Low. Raspy. Just inches away. Right outside the tent. A chill crawled up my spine. I reached for the flashlight, my fingers shaking. I wanted to unzip the tent just a little, just enough to see, but every instinct in my body screamed, "Don't." I did it anyway. The zipper sounded deafening in the silence. I pushed the flap open just an inch and shone the light outside. Nothing. The woods were empty. The fire had burned down to embers, casting a dull, orange glow. The trees stood still, dark shapes against the sky. But we both knew we weren't alone. I zipped the tent back up and held Sarah close. We didn't sleep much after that. Every little sound sent my heart pounding against my ribs. But the footsteps didn't return. The breathing had stopped. By morning, everything felt normal again. Almost. Sarah was the one who saw it first. She had stepped out of the tent, stretching, when she suddenly froze. I followed her gaze. There on the back of the tent was a handprint. It was large, smudged, as if someone had pressed their palm hard against the fabric in the night. A cold wave of nausea rolled through me. "That wasn't there before," Sarah whispered. I ran my hand over it. The print was on the outside, but when I touched the fabric, the inside was wet, not damp from dew. This was different. It felt sticky. Sarah looked at me, her face pale. "We need to leave. Now." We packed up in record time, stuffing our gear into our bags without bothering to fold anything. The whole time, I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see something, someone watching us from the trees. But there was nothing. The woods were silent. As we hiked back to the car, the feeling of being watched never left. When we finally reached the lot and threw our gear into the trunk, I turned to take one last look at the tree line. The sun had fully risen by then, casting long shadows. The forest looked peaceful again, but then I saw it, a shape, far back in the trees, standing, watching, not moving, just watching. I didn't say anything to Sarah. I didn't want her to look. I just got in the car, locked the doors, and drove. We never spoke about it again, and we sure as hell never went back.